11 at about 5:30 on Friday, July 15th, 2016. And today I thought I would introduce you to one of my packages that I'm developing in GitHub called GoodSheet, which is going to be something like the follow-on to the Pipulate project to bring interactive SEO capabilities to Jupyter Notebook, the environment I've been so excited about recently for interactive Python. So what better than interactive SEO and investigations in an interactive Python environment? So without further ado, the way we're going to get it is we'll open a new terminal window, and I will cd to my home directory, and then I'm going to git clone git at github.com /Mick11/GoodSheet. And then one other repo in addition to that, which is the investigation itself, because that's sort of a resource library, URLOOKUP, which I also have sitting in GitHub. Now this is my first really experimental, go around of this, and you guys will be able to follow this all from scratch. You won't necessarily be able to reproduce it from scratch so easily, because whenever you do something that requires OAuth authentication, which interacting with Google Spreadsheets and other of their APIs do, you have to register that app with the Google Developer Console. So this site right here is where you actually set up your apps, which are going to use OAuth authentication so that Google knows everything is fine. And they give you a client ID and a client secret that your apps actually need to use, and so we'll be covering that as well. On my Jupyter Notebook now, I have the GoodSheet repo that you just saw up here, and more importantly to this session, I have the URL lookup repo. So we're going to go into there. That's all you're really going to need to go into, because it refers to GoodSheet. GoodSheet is a dependency here, and there are a number of other dependencies in the picture here, such as GSpread. And if people get interested in this, I'll go through what's involved in setting it up, or maybe make a Docker image, or it's really not that difficult. You just got to do one pip requirements command in order to get what you need installed to run this. And this first step is really interesting, because all this stuff is just supporting trickery to allow the GoodSheet module to be loaded in a directory side by side with URL lookup, or whatever your investigation project is. So when we run that, well, first it's going to generate an error because I didn't put the myauth file in there, which contains the client secret credentials and stuff. So I do happen to have that sitting on my desktop here, anticipating that need. So I'll go into my system and drop into my home directory, and then drop into GoodSheet. GoodSheet is the folder that actually needs this here. But the interesting thing to watch is going to be inside URL lookup. This will be a before and after. As you can see, there's really just that one file here. That's the before. When we go over here, and I don't like that page order with that being in between, I want to be able to go back and forth quickly. If I were to execute this now with that file and location, I'm presented with this giant link here, which I click, and then I choose a particular user that has access to the spreadsheet I'm going to be doing. That's logged in as me personally, so I give myself a few rights. Now, I'm doing this through a type of OAuth authentication that caches enough so that it can keep refreshing authentication, so that you don't have to go through this process again. And remember the before and after, there's that new powers.ipython notebook. I hit enter, authentication successful, and that creates this file here, which has a bunch of stuff in there so that it can always get authentication again if it ever loses it. So if we execute that top block again, you can see it no longer challenges us for authentication. We're in. And I actually jumped ahead and executed this one here, and you see the empty brackets because I'm asking for get all values which is a list of lists from out of this file that I just created, which is empty. So it's a sheet named lookups, and it's a worksheet called sheet 1. So in here you'll see I'm connecting to a spreadsheet called lookups, and I'm connecting to sheet 1. And if I were to put my old favorite foo bar spam eggs here and execute that again, watch what happens to the square bracket. And there you have it. That is almost the end of the demo. You got foo and bar, you got spam and eggs, but I guess I'll take it just a little bit further to really hit home what this is about. I don't think I'm going to insert the values back in to the spreadsheet, but I will show you setting the stage for getting the values out. Now see how efficiently it just picked up that rectangular region. That's row 1, that's row 2. Now say I were to move bar and eggs down here and then delete the content here and go back and re-execute that, and you'll start to get to see some of that weirdness in spreadsheets. Oh well, let's see. Yeah, that's right. That is as if it's a row of rows. Okay, it's giving them back as 4 separate items. So let's see. What I have ready to demonstrate is I did a one-click depth crawl from Screaming Frog. It got back 36 HTML URLs, and that's using a feature that everyone using Screaming Frog should have, but it's only on the paid version, where I limited the search depth to 1. So this is really just a list of the links that are on my home page that I started the crawl from. So I will export that list to, I guess I'll put it right into that URL lookup directory, opening the door to the fact that I could actually be doing this local, but instead I am going to take that row of URLs and let's see, it's more than I thought, but that's okay. I'll take that list of URLs, oh wait, this is not what I thought it is. That's not my site. Oh yeah, that's just Excel opening the last file I happen to have open. That's more like it. Information leaks, lovely. Keeping my mistakes intact for your benefit. Copy, quit. Okay, I'll keep it in memory just so that I don't have weird copy buffer purging. Copy, go over to Google Spreadsheets, paste it, and now that list of lists from over here, what's it gonna look like? There you have it. So you can see it's only one column wide, and the first one is address. Say I were to change that to URL, re-execute, and you'll see the change take place here. And now this really sets the stage for the kind of SEO lookups that I am in the habit of doing, because you got your URL, but you want to look something up for each URL. So I can just go over here and say I wanted to look up, I don't know, the Moz page authority. So say I had a function called page auth. I go over here, I execute that, and you'll see I have a second column on each of these rows. So it's a list of lists, but simply because I put page auth there, it's setting up a request, such as it were, to fill in all the blanks that created by implication of creating the new column. And all those questions that pop up in one's mind can be answered. Yes, it is in fact very possible for spreadsheets to get confused and return back a lot more stuff than you ever really intended. So you got all those extra spaces in there, yuck. So part of the conventional behavior that I'll be advocating in using systems like this for this sort of investigation is to do just a little bit of trimming of your spreadsheet. Oh yeah, I scrolled down way too far. But a bit of, good housekeeping on your spreadsheet. Why have more rows and columns than what you really need to get your job done? So doing this sort of pruning of everything around you definitely brings you back to where you want to be for doing an investigation like this. So it got rid of all those extra columns. So there you have it, my GitHub library or package called GoodSheet, which will be replacing Pipulate, and in fact will incorporate Pipulate because the functions like PageAuth I'm going to be lifting directly from Pipulate, so this whole system will be springing to life more quickly than, quick enough to do all this type of work that I need to do for my job now. And I have technologies now that lets me update back 50 rows at a time, 100 rows at a time. I parsed a list that was 20,000 rows long, and it took under 5 minutes to update the whole thing back to the spreadsheet, which is pretty long from, say, compared to working on local CSV files, which we will also be doing, but there is always some advantage in being in a user interface that's web-based, that you can share people in instantly at a moment and really dazzle them with doing lookups against multiple rows without being limited by either paid product that you have to spend $100 a month or whatever in order to get this sort of API integration natively in Google Spreadsheets, or have limited features, or not have the power of the entire Python programming environment at your disposal and at your fingertips. So instead of just outputting this list, I guess you can see what's coming is that we're going to be stepping through it and doing stuff with it. Since it's a list of lists, it has all that stuff that we were talking about in earlier videos, like putting it in curly brackets as a generator expression and doing x for x in, and for a line in. And now you can start putting all kinds of Python code in there, but I'll just print a line. And of course you get everything, but if you just wanted the URLs, you could just pick off element 0, and there you have it. So you can really see what's coming here. This is live connected. I cannot emphasize enough, this is not something I have local. This is a live API connection between Jupyter Notebook, previously IPython, and Google Spreadsheets, just by having my GoodSheet package in location and having confirmed through an OAuth pop-up authentication, which put this file in location, and now you have fairly permanent access to that API moving forward. If this disappears, or if for some reason something changes, you would just have to do that authentication again, but you're in business. That's a really exciting one. Don't necessarily try and reproduce this unless you're ready to go in and set things up under the Google Developer Console. But I do encourage you to do that, and I'll cover the details in a separate video, because I fairly well went out of my way so that this is working as if it were a server, a headless server the kind of cloud server that could be hitting your Gmail every day, updating spreadsheets, doing some crawls on the web, with you never having to step in and manually re-log in, essentially the way every one of those sites out there that asks for your Google login and then continues to be able to do things in the background, like Twitter authentication for Buffer would be a great example of that same technique. Anyway, thanks for joining me. Hope to see you again soon, and don't forget to subscribe.